Always and never are two words you should always remember never to use. That is a quote by Wendell Johnson.
Welcome to Trina Talk. Trina Talk is a weekly podcast that will inspire and empower women of all ages to strive for the impossible. Your host, Trina L. Martin from TrinaMartin.com, is a motivational speaker, leader, and cyber tech expert. Every week, Trina will share wisdom gained from her life experiences and lessons learned while pursuing her goals to inspire you to achieve the next level in your life. Now, your host, Trina L. Martin.
Hello, welcome to Trina Talk. I am your host, Trina L. Martin, and this is episode 51. Before we get started, I just want to say I am so grateful, excited, and blessed to have my book to be soon released. From a mess to amazing, 7 steps to create the life that you deserve. For all of you out there who think that you have made too many mistakes and that you can't overcome, or you've been wondering, is there more for you in your life? I'm here to tell you, yes, there is. And the book will impact and inspire you to live on intention and go after the things that you totally deserve in life. The topic of this week's episode is, do you have the right words? My guest this week is Elizabeth Campbell. Liz calls herself the Word Stylist. She is a content writer at heart. She works with established businesses who are ready to transform their content, business, and their life through the power and beauty of words. She loves to teach small business owners how to write online content that rocks and gets results through her workshops. She owns EC Writing Services in Australia, but works with people all over the world. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you guys.
I'm excited to have you. You are known as the Word Stylist. Tell me what that means and how that came about.
That's true. Well, yeah, gosh, that's a good story. That happened quite a number of years ago. I've been in business for 6 years, and when I first started, I was just a common content writer, a copywriter. I'd been a journalist, and I was really trying to differentiate myself from the others who were like me doing the same things. And I did some work around my values and some work around like what was really important to me. And it came back that words, writing, connecting, communication, that sort of thing was really important, had a major impact on my life. And it's something that, as a journalist, so there was just basically my life. And then the stylist part came back with like, I really love beauty and fashion and style and things that look good. And, I just think when things look good, yeah, they will feel good, you'll feel good. And so I was throwing these words around. It's like, okay, what can I make out of this? What can I become? Like there was, the communication fashionista, this stuff. And it just sort of came out as the word stylist, and I can style your words for you online. And I was like, I feel comfortable getting up and saying that in front of people when I introduce myself, or I feel extremely comfortable when people introduce me as the word stylist. And I always get that question, what is a word stylist, or where did that come from? And so it just differentiates me. It's a talking point, and there's a little story around it. Like there is actual meaning to that. It wasn't just it took me weeks and weeks and weeks to come up with that. I did so much work around it.
Well, that's a great story. And I get what you're saying about the stylist part because I'm a bit of a fashionista myself. So I love that.
Yeah, you can tell from your photos online. You look very stylish. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Well, thank you. You're too kind. So, how did you come to have a love for words? Was this something that you always excelled at, like in school? Were you a storyteller? Were you in plays? How did you come to just love words like you do?
Such a good question. It's really funny. I didn't like reading when I was growing up, but I loved being read to. And I didn't like being in the spotlight at all. I never in drama. I never took drama or anything like that. And if I was in a play, I was always in the background. So as a behind the scenes crew member helping out. I did really love dancing though. So I did a lot of dancing and that creative streak was always there. And it wasn't until I did, like when I started in the business, there's a couple of ways that this sort of panned out was that when I started in the business, I doing some work around the milestones in my life and what had been a prominent thing. And I realised that writing had always been extremely prominent in my life. Like I would write letters to friends. I had pen pals overseas when you still actually used to write handwritten letters and send them via snail mail with stamps and stuff on them. I did really well in English. I loved English except the oral exam stuff. So when you had to get up and speak in front of people, I never did well at that, but I always did really well at my assignments. And I loved English. It was always my best subject. But also, when I looked back at what I had done, the very first time that I ever did writing of significance that I can remember was actually when I was in kindergarten. And I was only about 4 years old, and I'd written a book. I penned a book, and it was about a runaway $1 coin that fell out of its owner's pocket, and it fell down a drain, and it ran out to sea, and it had an amazing adventure with some sea creatures out there, and it got washed back up on shore, and it was found by a little girl. And I had shaded a $1 coin. I had coloured it in. The teacher had helped me write it. And it was a present to my mum. And mum kept that book for so long. And that's the reason I remember the story was because I used to go and look at it. Even into my university years, I'd go home, I'd get it, and I'd be like, one day I'm going to be a famous children's author. And it was really funny. I went back to get this book one year and I'm like, Mum, where's that book that I wrote when I was little? I'm going to make it into a children's book and I'm going to be famous. And she's like, oh, darling, I threw that out ages ago. And I'm like, no, what do you mean you threw it out? How could you do that? Like, so I had, and it was so cute, like it was really, it was just a 4-year-old's version. It was probably only about 10 pages, but it had all been stapled and there was cut out things in there and it had been, looked like I'd put a lot of work into it, So that was sort of my first foray into writing. And I didn't, you don't realise this stuff that you do as a kid until you sort of think about what was a major milestone. And the journalism part and the storytelling part came in when I was in year 9, and this is another milestone, was that I had to do work experience. And by this stage, I was still sort of behind the scenes. I didn't never want to do speaking, and now I do speaking all over the country, podcasts and all of that. I never wanted to do that. So I applied for the radio station in the town that I grew up in, here in Western Queensland in Australia, and I didn't get it, and I was devastated. And then my second choice was at Just Jeans, which is a fashion shop here, and all I really wanted was to get discounted, denim jeans shorts, and I didn't get it either. And my third preference was the newspaper, and I only put that down because my English teacher said to me, oh, you'd be a really good journalist. You should just put down the paper and go and do a week's work experience there. And I was like, I can't think of anything else that I wanted to do, so I'll just do that. And funnily, that was the best. That was the turning point for me. I loved it. I loved going out and writing stories, and that was many years ago now, but you were allowed to do a lot more as a work experience student than you are these days. So the editor said to me, well, you're here for the week. What do you, what are you going to write about? And I said, oh, you want me to write a story? And they're like, yeah, we'll give you a full page. And I went, oh, my God, okay, I don't know what I'm going to write about. Maybe I'll just write about the kids that are doing work experience in my class, and I'll go and take some photos of each of them, and I'll write their little story about why they want to do that work experience. And so I did, and they said that was a good idea. And I went and I interviewed my best friend, who admittedly got the Just Jeans gig that I wanted. And I interviewed my second best friend, and she was in childcare. And I interviewed my boyfriend at the time, and he was a builder, and I took photos of them all. And I got a full page in this little newspaper, and they gave me a front page tag on it, and the news agencies around the town, they had, the posters out the front by work experience student Elizabeth Campbell. And that was when I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the best thing ever. This is what I want to do. I never want to do anything else in my life ever. And so I spent like about 13 years in the media. And then after that, I started my business, which is all just writing. I've never done anything else. It's all just always been writing for me. So it was that, like starting the business, figuring out how I was going to be different, figuring out what my business was actually going to be, and then working on those milestones throughout my life that I could go back and go, so writing actually was a major part of my life growing up. And then when you look at all the little things that are associated with that, like I write to-do lists on top of to-do lists. You should see my walls. They are covered in butcher's paper with ideas and funnels and should we do this and should we do that and my marketing plan and all of it. So, yeah, it's interesting. I encourage people to go and, do that a lot. And people ask me all the time, like, how do you just know what you're passionate about? And I'm like, I'm not a good example of that, because I've just really, it's just been something that's been really prominent in my life, like always. And so I didn't really, I guess I found it, but I didn't have to look too hard for it. It wasn't really connecting the pieces of the puzzle together. It was more about just being aware of what was really important to me. And writing is really important to me. So, yeah.
Wow. It's funny because you said earlier you didn't like reading, but you love writing. And I'm going, how do you love writing? Because I'm a person that I write, but it is not my passion. And I think because being in school and having to write, and for so long I read and I did technical things. So it was always like technical writing. And I did not get any joy out of it at all.
No, that's true. Technical writing is not I shouldn't say that. For me, it's the same. Some people love technical writing. But for me, I much prefer the creative side of things, or the very conversational style of writing. And that's great, because that fits in with the whole way that online content is. It's very conversational, and that's very much my style. But, yeah, no, I didn't like reading at all. And, that was actually, how when you're a little kid in year 1, 2 or 3 and you have to take books home and you have to read them as your homework, and then you'll get ticked off whether you've done it. I always used never get ticked off. I'd say that I'd do it. Make you join book clubs and that sort of thing, and I'd start reading the book and just get so bored with it, because I've realised, and this is the thing too, is I've realised I need short, snappy, humorous content. That's the type of, words that get me in, and there's all different. Some people love really long, lengthy, emotional, heartstrings pulling words. Some people like that really technical, analytical, fast fact stuff. Some people just like really short, snappy content, and I like that. So if the book is full of just short, snappy content and it's funny to me, then I'll read it. And so what I actually discovered was I was reading the wrong books for a start, and now I really love reading. And my favorite, I can't believe I'm about to admit this, my favorite style of book is like that real lovey-dovey, romantic sort of boy meets girl style of book, or a business book. So, yeah, funny.
See, there's nothing wrong with that, because I'm like that as well. I like the romantic novels. I like business, and I like the personal development type of books. So those are what I read. And it's funny because I was a reader, unlike, like you said, you weren't a reader, but you were a writer. So I was a reader and not a writer. I loved to read, but I think my passion for reading came from my upbringing, and that was my escape and my way to get away and think about, okay, there's a better life out there, and this is what I imagine for myself.
That's true. That's so true. And that's a good point too that you make, because, a lot of the stuff that we read is it's reflective of how we, see ourselves or want our life to be, or, we can dream bigger as well. And it's kind of the same with writing. I mean, we journal, and we're taught to journal. And I was just talking to a client of mine the other day, and she was having a real issue with getting her content right for her webinar. And so she journaled on it. And I was like, that's a brilliant idea, because we journal about all sorts of different things that are happening in our life, or, that we're grateful for, all of that. But we can also journal on areas that we are, needing to improve. And the amount of ideas that will come out when you're writing, when you just sit down to just write a piece, or even like as you're reading, like business books and personal development books and all of that, you start to let your mind just drift away and go, oh, this is a great idea for such and such, or for this part of my business, or for my profile, or just to go and do, or to give that person, or whatever. So there's a real power in making sure you read what you like reading, and also then just writing, just actually sitting down with no real thought about what you're going to write and just start writing. And there's real beauty in that, in those words.
Wow. So I have a question for you. So since you like writing, and you say you make lists, and it's funny because I make lists too. Do you prefer the pen to paper, or do you type everything like on your phone or your iPad? Which do you prefer?
Such a good question. I much prefer pen to paper. However, that doesn't, it's not, you only have to go and usually type it out again anyway, especially if it's your daily to-do list within your business or your job. If it's just a shopping list or something like that, I still write it all out. The thing is, when I would love to try and get really good at having that notes section in my phone and, writing my lists in there, but I just forget about it. And so then I don't do things because it's in my phone. Whereas when it's written down and I can highlighter and cross it off with the highlighter, I actually feel like I've accomplished something. I feel like I've got a list. I had 8 things I needed to do within the next 24 hours. And even though I use Asana, so the project management tool, and all of my tasks are in there, and my team assign me tasks and I assign them tasks and all of that, even though I've got that, I still will write down the major priorities that I need to get done. So, and this morning I was just going through and highlighting them off, and I've finished them. So it's funny what motivates you though, isn't it? I have to use online for the business because it just makes sense. And also, I think I wouldn't be able to plan properly if I didn't have that project management tool and I was just relying on writing stuff out. Plus it takes way less time to just type something in. But I feel more accomplished when I have a written pen to paper to-do list that I can use a pretty pink or orange or blue highlighter and just highlight off that I've done. I'm like, yes, I'm winning at life. I've done those tasks.
It's so funny. I'm listening to you and I'm the exact same way. I'm a technical person and I have all the software and I have the phone and I'll write things in that note app on your phone, just if it's a quick, like, oh, I need to remember that. But it seems like writing it actually on paper with a pen, I remember it better. And like you said, I feel accomplished when I can look at that list and scratch something out and say, okay, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. And you know what I do? I carry a journal around with me, just kind of as a take note type of thing. So if I'm out and I think about something for the business that I want to do, I write it down.
Yeah. It's so good. The other thing that I have a notebook that I carry around and Post-it notes, and you should see my handbag is like there's 65 billion pens in there. Like we never have a shortage of pens. They just attract themselves to me. I'm like a magnet for pens. Like we'll find pens around the house and I'm like, where the hell did that pen come from? And so I've got Post-its, I've got pens, I've got notebooks, I've got my phone. But the thing that I actually find that helps me the most when I'm out and about is if I just email myself. So if I email myself, then it's there. It's just a quick, like, it won't have any subject or anything like that. It'll just be a task. My team will know to either put it into Asana for me or just leave it, and it just sits there. And then when I get in, I can check my emails. Oh, that's right. That's that thing that I wanted to do, and then I can save it or do it or whatever. I haven't got into a good habit of using Asana on my phone yet. I can, but I don't remember to do it. There's sort of too many steps, I think. And I think if it's easier, and this is the same too, when you've got a pen and paper, it's a pen and a paper and you write down what you've got to do. When you've got to type it in, you've got to click the next column or the next tab, then you've got to save the date and do all these things. And I think just in such a busy world that we live in, like, simple is the new sexy, I think, just keep everything simple, easy to do, easy to understand. And if that's pen and paper, then I say hallelujah and congratulations for going old school.
I mean, I totally agree with you, because on my phone, I have an app that I use as well, kind of like your Asana, to schedule tasks and things. And I always forget to use it. And I go, oh my goodness, I have this app. I paid for it, but it's so much quicker for me to just grab my journal or, like you said, a sticky note and write something out. And then, like, I'm like you, I throw it in my purse. Like, I'll stick the sticky onto my wallet, because I know when I pull the wallet out, I'm going to see it and I won't forget. So isn't that funny?
It's so funny. Around the world, we still love Post-it notes and pens.
I hope they never go out of style, because I need them. I love them. And you were talking about pens, and it's funny because I have a couple of friends, but I am a total pen snob. I am very picky about my pens. And then when I find a pen that I like that writes very nicely, I'm very particular about it. Like, how you're out and people say, oh, may I borrow your pen to write something? I always find another pen to give them. I don't give them my favorite pen.
You always give them like that, the marketing pen that you picked up at a networking event or something with someone else's branding on them. Here, have this pen. Or like that pen that's in the bottom of your handbag that's like got sticky tape stuck to it. Here, you can have this pen. But I'm using my Swarovski diamond encrusted pink.
Yes, because people take your pens and they never give them back. They say, oh, can I borrow it? And then they go off and then you never see your pen again.
That's me. That's why I've got so many pens. I'm sure of it. Because I look at the marketing pens that I've got and I'm like, I don't even think I went to that event. Like, how did I get this pen? Or I don't even know that business. Like, how on earth has this pen made its new home in my handbag? But you're right. I have a few beautiful pens, and the one that I love has a big diamond on the end of it, or a diamond-esque piece of glass probably on the end of it, and it's silver. I've got a silver one and a rose gold one and a black one, and they sort of just hang out in my bag or on my desk or, you know, in the kitchen or somewhere like that if I need to pull it out and sign something in front of somebody. And you will be so surprised at the people that go, oh my God, that's the most amazing pen I've ever seen. So it's a good talking point.
Exactly. And I bet you don't loan that pen out to anyone, do you?
Oh, no way. That one, those three stay with me. Yeah, they get those other pens that you were talking about. It's so funny. And there's so many people that will say, make sure you give them back. And I'm like, yeah, I will. And you just forget. Like, I don't do it deliberately, but I'll confess, I'm a pen stealer. I don't mean it, but that's how we end up with pens.
See, you would be the person I would give the pen at the bottom of my handbag. And
I'd still take it. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, you get the one that's at the bottom of the pile, the one with the piece of sticky tape wrapped to it, the one that's like got scratches all over it. You get that pen. And I'd be like, this is great. Thanks so much for letting me use your pen. And in my bag it goes to be given to someone else.
Exactly. You know, and I have been known to go after someone for my pen. Because like you say, give that back. And they go, oh, okay. And they walk away. And not that they're doing it on purpose, but I have gone back to a person and said, excuse me, can I have my pen back?
Especially if it's the pink Swarovski diamond one. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So tell me about your business and the type of clients that you have that need your services. I mean, I would imagine you have a whole plethora of different businesses that come to you because everyone needs someone who can write well for them.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm just going to touch on that point a little bit more. If you don't mind, because this is something, you know, when I was first starting out, we did everything. We did every piece. I've only ever done writing because that was always my strength. And I've never wanted to do any other marketing strategy or video or podcast or whatever, nothing like that. It's always been writing for me. That was how I niched, was just the content writing. But, yeah, it was really surprising to me just how many people couldn't write well, didn't like writing, didn't know how to write, weren't even interested in writing, just needed it done. And that was so foreign to me because I'd always hung out with writers. So as a journalist, I was around writers all the time. You know, my family is very creative. My mum loves writing. My sister, my dad's a carpenter, so very creative. My sister's a chef, very creative. My other sister's an artist, so we all like writing and, you know, doing that creative stuff. And so when I first started, I'd already had the business on the side for a couple of years, just not making much money, just about $300 to $500 a month. It was what I called shoe and holiday money. It allowed me to have some extra cash to play with on top of my job as an editor and a journalist. And I was just I had a couple of little clients, like a picture framer, a real estate agent, actually a couple of real estate agents, and that was really it. I'd do a couple of one-off jobs here and there for fashion websites or other, like restaurants and that sort of thing, and that was it. And then as I grew in the business, I realised just how important this skill was that I had, that people kept saying, oh, my God, you're so amazing at writing. And I'm like, really? Because I never really thought that I was, you know, it was never a thought that crossed my mind that I was so amazing at writing. I just loved it. But it transferred across into what we now do, which is simply just websites, blogs, and online content, like social media, newsletters, email series, that sort of thing. That's all we do. And we've only ever done that from probably about my first the second year in business, I decided I didn't want to do everything, and that was what people were mostly asking me for. So that's what we started doing. And as I went through this journey of writing for people, like we have just written for so many different amazing businesses, and the only criteria that they need to have is that they need to be an action taker and a risk taker, and they need to absolutely love what they do so that we can replicate that in their content. And then, you know, that's really been it. We've worked with builders, we've worked with other tradespeople, we've worked with influencers, we've worked with speakers, we've worked with fashion websites, a lot of fashion and beauty, because that was what I first focused on when I was starting out, because that was what I loved. We've worked with insurance agencies, we've worked with car dealerships, and so there's just, as you say, everybody needs somebody that can help them write, or they need to learn to how to write, because everything now is about content online, whether it's, and most of it is written content. So even with your podcast, you have show notes. Even with videos, you have them transcribed or have a description with the video. You know, like I was just reading a story this morning around abandoned cart emails for e-commerce and how to write those so that you don't miss out on so many sales at checkout. And I'm like, oh my God, it's everywhere. Content writing is literally something that nearly almost every business, I don't want to say every business because I'm sure there's someone out there, but almost every business needs. So yeah, it's and funny because my poor business, I've tried to kill off the content writing side of the business so many times as I've gone through this business journey, you know, like, and it just won't die. I've tried to give it away. I've tried to say, no, we don't do that anymore. We only teach business owners. We only do courses on it. And just people just go, they kind of like go, whatever, Liz, I'm going to keep asking you until you do it. So we've just started like refocusing on the actual content writing done for you service, and it's going absolutely crazy at the moment. So it's, you know, that just says to me that it's such a needed component of a business, a modern business that has an online presence, or somebody that has an online profile and they want to maybe do something a little bit different and stand out more through their words so that they can, you know, look good online. And as I was saying right at the beginning, when you look good, you know, when your website looks good, you want to share it with people. When you've got cool information on your blog or your social media, you want people to see it. So many times people will come to me and say, I hate my website, I'm embarrassed of my website. And so if you feel that way about your words and your content, you're never going to share it with people. Like, I've even had somebody give me their business card and scratch out, like scribble off the website in pen and say, don't look at it, it's terrible, that's why I need you. And I'm like, oh my God, are you doing that with every single person you're giving your business card to? Because you know what that's going to do? Make people go and want to look at your website because you're telling them how bad it is. So they want to go and, you know, see for themselves and criticize it. When you should be like really excited about your online content, your socials, because they've got beautiful pictures and you know, amazing words, your website because it's written in a way that connects and engages people and they can really understand who you are, what you do and what you're about. And then, you know, any other emails and newsletters that you send out, you know, like just making sure that you're really excited about the content that you're putting out there. And if you don't want to do it, then I suggest getting somebody to help you with it. And it might just be an editor. It might just be somebody to have a look at your content and help you with it. It might be you getting your own personal content writer on your team. It might just be a VA, or it might be an agency like what we've got. But that would be my biggest tip, is because it is such a needed component of business these days, is to just make sure that you're absolutely nailing it and nail it well and make sure that you stand out and be different?
You know, I really see where you have value because everything nowadays is online. Like you said, everyone has a website, everyone has a social media platform that they're on, and you have to know how to write and hook. And you know, I've gone to a couple, not many, but a couple sites or platforms where you read something that someone's written and you're going, oh, okay, whatever, that's not good. So I see where you have value. But this is my question for you. When someone contacts you and like the website person says, I don't like my website, I need someone to help me. Do you go and how do I want to say, do you totally create content for them, or are they telling you this is kind of what I want, or here's a script on what I wanted to say, but you smooth it out to make it sound good?
Good question. There's a couple of different ways that we help people, and it might be that they've got an idea, like you say, a script, but it's more like they've written down a few dot points, or, you know, they've written down a little bit of it, maybe a couple of paragraphs about, you know, what they're wanting to get portrayed, but they can't actually find the right words to do that. And so one of the things that we do with all of our clients and content writing jobs as such is that they fill out a questionnaire, and the questionnaire that we have allows us to see their writing style, their tone of voice, the personality that they have in their writing. It doesn't matter how much they write. They might only write a couple of sentences or, you know, a few words, but at least we can see it. We can see the words that they're using that are important to them. So, you know, one of the clients that we've got at the moment is an interior designer for commercial projects, and they use the word sense of belonging all the time whenever they're talking to me, whenever they're in an email, all of that. So that needs to be reflected in their content. So the very first step, and this is the thing that has always set my business apart from others, is that we can really easily mimic the client or the client's tone of voice and personality. And it may be that they're not in their business and the business has its own personality and tone of voice, and that's totally fine. But we can get to the bottom of that right from the very beginning, which makes the content writing process and the client's journey a lot easier as we move forward. So it means that we kind of become an extension of them. And it's so funny because we'll get feedback from people, you know, oh my God, Liz, this is exactly what I wanted to say. This, you know, sums it up so well. This is perfect. I love it. This is brilliant. It says all the things that I needed it to. So there's a simple process. It starts with just a very basic questionnaire, but that questionnaire is like absolute gold to us and my writers on the other end, because it shows us exactly what we need to be able to create content for somebody else. And so when they're saying that, you know, can you please help me with the content? There are two ways. There's like the way that you suggested, they've got a script, and that we may just edit it for them. So we might just say, they might have written something and it's okay, and they're okay with it, and we might just edit it and polish it and make it sound a lot better. And that's one of the ways. And the other way is that they just go, I don't even know where to start. I don't want to do it. Can you just do it? And that's when our questionnaire really comes in handy. You know, the first drafts that people get, it's like when you're writing a book, or you know, you're working with a video editor and they write you a script or something like that. You get a draft of what it's going to look like or how it's going to read. And so there might be areas where we need to go back to somebody and say, you know what, can you just explain it a little bit more? Why would you have that with that? And then once they explain it, it's like, oh, okay, now I can understand. Cool, we'll go and rewrite that, or we'll go and write it. So I suppose it's a matter of like, we work with them as much as possible. And that's, if you're working with a content writer or any kind of contractor, 9 times out of 10, you want to outsource and never have anything to do with it again. But in the beginning stages, you need to keep an eye on it as a business owner. You need to keep an eye on it and just make sure that the content going out sounds like you or sounds like your business, because there's nothing worse than when you are, putting yourself out there online and the way that you're portraying yourself on social media is completely different to how your website is portraying you, or it's completely different when you do a live video or a video and then your written content, because it's being done by somebody else, it doesn't match that tone of voice or the personality. It's completely different. And if there's an incongruence with your online content, from online to videos to when they're moving around your website, or even when they meet you at a networking event, or they just see you down at the post office or whatever it is, if there's incongruence between who you are online, who you are in person, you lose trust really quickly. And it's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're getting somebody else to do their work, which is why we do so much work at the start to make sure that we get it right, so that we can mimic our clients and make sure that we sound like them. And their feedback it's so important for us, because the feedback shows us that, some extra words that they may be using, or it shows us, things that they wouldn't say, or, it shows us that we need to use more facts, because the way that they talk or the way that they, write their content down, they actually use a lot of facts. So we need to make sure that we're using facts and statistics in the content for that specific person, or they might talk, like we were talking about the different styles of content. They may talk, in real storytelling sense, and they share lots and lots of stories, or, they say things like, oh, I can relate to that because of this and that and whatever. So we need to make sure that we're portraying them, and we have to put lots more stories in their specific content. So there's a real process behind it, but we love it, like it's kind of like the peeling of the onion rings, like there's just layers and layers and layers to businesses and to people and to content, and we like to make sure that we can, create the content that takes in all the layers, because that's what's interesting to people, And I suppose that's probably where my journalism skills come in too, is that you can just delve deeper into somebody's content, because you're asking questions, or you're asking the right questions, or you've had that experience of writing news stories across so many different subjects. So yeah, it's really fun. There's a couple of different ways that you would work with a content writer. One, just getting them to do it for you, or two, you do it and then your content writer or editor would edit it for you. Editing's a lot different to proofreading as well. Editing is structurally rewriting some of the content and adding comments to say, I think you need more words here about a story, or I think you need some real statistics in there. It's a bit, light on. Whereas proofreading is just, they'll find a typo, or they'll put a comma here or a dash there. So there's a little bit to it, but, and that's why some people just get it done, and other people love to learn all this stuff too. And if that's the case, then, oh my God, I love you and I want to meet you, because I love people that want to learn how to write.
Well, that is some very, very good advice, because as I'm working my business, I find that is very true. And I've gotten better with it because I know what I need to do. But what you were saying as far as sounding like the person, speaking in their voice and how they want to speak. That is so important, because you don't want a false representation of yourself out there. So I think it's fabulous that you guys take that time to actually learn how the person speaks and how that they would write, so that you can mimic that, instead of just saying, okay, we know how to do this. And then you create content, and then when their customers or clients read it, and then when they meet them, they're going, wow, you don't sound like your website.
It's so important. It's a thing that I see all the time, and it's really disheartening. Like, I've been following people on social media. I know I'm not alone, because this is what we're getting told by our clients and by others as well in the industry. It's just that you're following someone on social media, and you've been watching their videos, and you've been consuming their content and just feasting on it. You could be following that person for quite some time, and you've been watching their interviews online or whatever it is, and then you finally get to go and see them live, or you get to meet them, and it doesn't necessarily have to be some massive influencer celebrity. It could just be somebody that is in your circle or your industry or whatever it is, and you go and you see them, you go and meet them, you go to their networking event, whatever it is, and they're completely different, and you're like, wow, what's happening here? It's very confusing. And I remember I went and I listened. I'd been following this person for so long, and I really admired them, and I still do. And I looked up to them, and, I was just in awe when I was first in business. And then when I went and saw them speak live, I was like, you don't sound anything like videos or your content. And it was more around the tone, which online was super upbeat and, really energetic. And then in person was just a little bit more quiet and reserved. And I was like, I was expecting, somebody to bounce out onto the stage and, big, huge smiles and this larger than life personality. And what I saw was, somebody who's just very calm and reserved and more along the line, very quietly spoken. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? This is crazy. But, there's other things that get in the way too. So and I'm never too hard on people about it at all. It's just a thought. And if I'm having that thought, then everyone in that room who's been doing the same as me, following them online, is having the same thought. And you just lose a little bit of trust. And so the best thing to do is to just be yourself. Be yourself online. Be yourself in person. Share some real content, like some real stories, share some struggles that you're having, not all the time, but just share those problems that you're having, because this makes us more relatable, more human, and people enjoy that. They like to see that we're all the same as each other, even if you're the one on stage and they're the one in the crowd, or you're the one that does the lives and they're watching. It's really comforting for people to see that. And so when you are sharing your online content, it's really important that's why you need, as a business owner, even if you've got somebody to do it for you, you still need to have a handle on it. You don't want to just outsource it and forget about it, because that's where you'll start to, what if your content writer gets somebody else to start doing it? What if your agency has somebody else working on it, not the same person? The tone could change a little bit. The style could change a little bit. So it's really important. It's something, I've always thought of content as money, right? So where you've got to do your financials in your business, I've always thought of content as being as important as sending an invoice, because the content is the piece of the puzzle that actually gets people in to start listening to you, to start following you. They may download something that you've got. They may talk about you on social media, right? It starts that journey to potentially becoming a client. And so when you think about content in that context, you actually would put a lot more emphasis on it. Like you would if you're outsourcing your bookkeeping. It's not like you would go, oh, okay, cool, I've got a bookkeeper. I never have to look at my books ever again. It's all just going to be taken care of. And it's the same with your content. If content equals money and it's as important to you as, you know, networking or going and following up with somebody and getting a big client or just any client on board, if content can equal that, then it's really important to make sure that, one, you're overseeing it if you're having it outsourced, or two, you actually are writing for the people on the other end. You're being yourself, you're sharing information that they're going to, you know, eat up quickly. You're sharing information that is really helpful to them, and you're being yourself. You're not being anybody else. You're going to be the same person online. If you make a mistake during your live, it doesn't matter. You know, you just keep going. If you sneeze or something like that, whatever. If you've got to go and shut the blind during your live, it doesn't matter. All of that stuff is real and raw, and people are enjoying that style of content at the moment. So, yeah, you're right. Speaking in the same voice online and offline, and there's a couple of other, you know, elements that make that journey a lot easier. So just being yourself is one of them, but also just, you know, thinking about content in a different light. As you know, a lot of the people that we work with kind of think of it like it's a hassle. Oh, I've got to be on social media every day, or I've got to put a blog out every week, or, you know, I've got to get that landing page done. But if you think about it, that landing page could actually be your ticket to thousands of dollars every week. Or it could be, you know, that blog goes out to so many different people, and they start to come to your website and they sign up for something, or they download something, or they get in touch with you. And if you think about content in that way, then I think more people would actually be wanting to create amazing content.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a good point. Good tip. Now, my next question is, now you have authored 2 books. With you being a lover of words, do you send your stuff to an editor?
Sorry, I just missed that last question. What was it?
I said, do you send your writing to an editor? So you've done 2 books. When you finish, do you send your stuff to an editor?
Oh, yes, I absolutely do. Because and you know what? My first book, which is called Wow Words on the Web, it's all about how to write online content. That book, the framework in that book actually was reworked into like what we use as our framework now by the editor. So I had just pulled together all this content, and I, you know, as a writer, I was going, yeah, I've got this book thing nailed. I know what I'm doing. I'm a writer. I can write a book. And it came back with so many changes and so many things moved around, and the structure of the book. And I was like, wow, I actually thought I was good at this writing thing. And I am good at this writing thing, just not, you know, book writing is very, very different, and it takes a different structure. But my beautiful editor on that book actually created our 5S method, which is what we teach and how we structure our content. It came from her being insightful with my words and pulling out bits and pieces to create a way better book than what I had given her. And the same for the second book, which is called The Divorce Diaries, and it's for business owners, business women going through a divorce and running a business at the same time. That book was the same thing. I had a different editor on that book because I like to, with my books, I'll match the book to the editor. So I knew that the editor for The Divorce Diaries, she had done that sort of emotional content writing and editing before. So I wanted to have the best outcome. So she changed it around as well. And she would add things. Liz, you need to write more here. Liz, we need a tip here. Liz, this bit doesn't fit here. Liz, what the hell are you talking about here? I don't think you should say this. So absolutely with the books, 1,000,000%. I'll always have an editor. They are the most valuable part of the book writing process, I believe. And I actually spend more on good editing in the book writing process than I spend on any other part of it, having the cover made. I don't spend as much on the internal design or anything. I spend all my money on the editing process because that's the most important part, I believe. With my personal blogs and content and that sort of thing, I get my weekly blog that goes on EC Writing Services. I get that edited as well, and my newsletter, I get that edited, and every time I don't, there's always a mistake in it, because the thing is when you are writing your own content, you know what you want to say. So when you're reading your own content that you've written, your brain knows what it wants the content to say, and so if the words aren't there, your brain will just put the words there and read it like they are there. So if it's missing an and or a the or a to or a don't or whatever it is, and you know that you've written it that way, or you've got a can and it should be a can't, then your brain will just say, oh, yeah, that's a can or that's a can't or that's a do or whatever. It's meant to be there, so just keep going. And so the best part of having an editor is that they show you the areas that you may need to improve on, or they just show you all the little tiny things, like all the do's and don'ts, or the thes and the ins and the outs and whatever that you've missed, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realise I missed that many, or I've reread this, I thought it was pretty perfect. But so there's always, the way that we write and the way that we read our own writing, it is very, very hard to edit. And even as an editor for the media, we would have, our journalists would have sub-editors that would read their work first, and then it would go to another editor before it went to the final proofread and editor. So there's so many, it's rare, or it should be rare, that you would read in a magazine or, online blogs and that sort of thing, still of news outlets, they still use the same process as and newspapers and all of that. It's rare that you will see mistakes because it's gone through such an extensive editing. Rare, because sometimes you see lots of mistakes in newspapers and that sort of thing. But if the work wasn't edited, you would be blown away by the first drafts or the amount of mistakes that's actually in a piece of content before it goes to an editor. So important. And I'm seeing a lot of people, business owners, that are coming to us now. We're doing a lot more editing for people because they actually want to know, we track the changes so you can see it, and people want to know where they can improve on in their writing, or what we're changing, that sort of thing. So it's really important. That's a good question. I like that one.
Oh, thank you. I asked because, like I said, I'm doing writing too, and it's something, and I totally agree. I'm in the process of writing a book now, and I have written, and like you said, I have missed words, but because I knew what I wanted to say, I just went on. And then when a day or two later, when I reread it, I go, huh? What? Oh, there's a word missing. Or, yeah, that shouldn't be can. It should be can't. Or I don't say not. And then I'm going, what? No. So it's so funny how your brain plays that trick. And it's very difficult to write and edit your own stuff. So it is good to have someone with fresh eyes who has no idea of what you're trying to say, because then they can see and they can catch it and they can give you that, okay, I think, the context of this needs to be explained a little bit better. So that's always a great tip.
Yeah, and that's true. And you know what? You make a good point as well about when you go away and you leave the content for a little while, like a couple of days or even just overnight, and you come back with your own fresh eyes, the difference that makes to editing your own content. And that's something that I would suggest to people if they are wanting, if they don't want to get an editor, they can't afford an editor or whatever it is, then just write the content, leave it, and come back in a day or so and reread it again, and use a ruler and mark off every single word. So when I'm editing and I'm editing my own content, that's what I do. If I haven't got time to send it to my editor because it needs to get out quickly or something like that, I'll read it 60 million times. But the way that I do it is to have a ruler and then just cross off, read out loud every word and cross it off as you're reading it. And that will also help. But it's very meticulous, and it's much easier just to send it to an editor and just say, here's my work. You have a look at it and make it better. Thank you.
Wow, you've given us some really good tips, Liz. And I want to go into the question part of the interview.
Thanks.
Okay, so here's question number 1. Who or what motivates you?
Good question. I'm a very self-motivated person, but if I have a goal, right? At the moment, I'm resetting my business to be able to travel anywhere. And so, I've got a goal. I've got 3 months to have this business sorted, because at the moment I'm still a little bit too in it. And we're going to go travelling around Australia very soon, and there are going to be some parts of Australia that don't have internet, and my whole business is internet. So I need somebody to be looking after that for me. I need them to be pretty much to be me while I'm not there. And so I've got this goal of till the middle of September to have that sorted. So I'm super motivated by that, because that it means to me, if I don't have everything sorted by then my business will stop, or we'll stop getting the sales that come in, or we won't be able to help our clients for those days. And it could be weeks that I'm without internet, and so at that point, that's motivating me. So having a goal and being self-motivated. But if I'm really lacking motivation and that happens, then music is really good for me, and I just put my music on. Exercise is really good for me as well. So even just going for a walk outside, I find getting out in nature really just helps get that, it just takes you out of your little box that you've been in for however long, like in your office or in your home or at your desk or whatever it is. And it just gives you a new perspective, and that I find that really inspiring and really motivating. And the other thing is, if I really am just not into it that day, I will do one of 2 things. I'll call my mum, because she's pretty good at giving me a swift kick up the backside to get me back into, or I'll just give myself some time. And sometimes, you might need to just chill out on the couch, or, do nothing, do a bit of cooking or do a facial or whatever it is, go to the shops or whatever, and just give yourself a little bit of time away from everything to come back with, as you say before, fresh eyes and that feeling of, wanting to get back into it. Because there's nothing worse when you're not motivated, trying to push yourself to do something. You don't put that amazing energy into it, and so you'll get a result that matches the energy that you're putting in.
Okay. What demotivates you?
Negative people demotivate me. I can't be around them. Negative, I'm a really super positive person, and I know that's not the case for a lot of people. And so when, there are negative conversations, even in the sense that judgmental conversations or anything like that, I just need to remove myself, because I find it just so demotivating. It's just oh my God, I can't do this, or I get too sucked in to it, and so I just, no, that's it. Negative people, negative conversations. I find it so demotivating.
Mm. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
Oh, oh my gosh! The first thing that comes to mind is my divorce. It was the most painful thing that I have ever been through in my life, even though it was my decision. My first marriage was 15 years, and we were very young when we got together, and it was, my normal. And so when I left, I was hurting so much from the relationship, but then I actually was hurting so much more when I left, because I didn't know who I was, and I didn't, I wasn't connected to myself. And I had to do a lot of work around self-esteem and self-love and self-worth and all of that to feel confident and become the woman that I am today. And that was for for me to be able to live my best, most vibrant life. So the thing that hurt me was the relationship and the divorce, and then it actually has been the most amazing experience, is the only way that I can put it. And people that are going through a divorce right now won't understand that, but it's been 5 years. So there comes a point where you forgive and you let go, and that's the bit that's made, that's the bit that I learned from and learned to be a better person from. So, yeah,
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question.
Thank you. What is your fear?
My fear is that I won't get to where I want to get to in life. I won't be successful enough to make it to what is the top for me.
Okay. Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Is there a time that I wish I'd done something and I didn't? Yeah, it's to do with the business, and if I just had have trusted myself more, and I just had have stayed on the path that I knew that I was destined for in this business, I would have seen results a lot quicker. But I didn't. I deviated from the path so many times, and it's only been in the last 12 months that I've come back onto the path and have gone, yeah, this is the one. This is where I'm meant to be going. This was always the path that I was meant to take, but I just a few detours along the way. I learned a whole bunch of stuff, and that would be the only thing that I can think of, is that if I had have stayed on the path that I already knew was going to be successful for me, then I would have seen a result a lot quicker. But you got to do this stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
Sorry, can you just repeat that question?
Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
No, not really. I mean, I always look at things as an experience and as something that I can learn from. So, there's probably been a lot of times where I've gone, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I should have, tried it this way. But I look at it, just recently I started a different area of my business. We started a sales force within the business, and it just didn't work the way that I wanted it to. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why it didn't. And it's not that won't work in the future. It's just that it was extremely time consuming and I don't have the time at the moment. So it's not right for us right now, but it could be in the future. But I'm glad that we did it because I know, and I'm not, if I hadn't have done it, it would have saved me a heck of a lot of money and time. But I'm really actually glad that I did do it because I know I learned a lot. I understand how it all works now. It may not be right for us right now at this point, but it could work down the track. So not really, yes and no, but mostly I just think of things that, as a learning experience. And even if I'm feeling a bit down on myself, or I always say, what can I take from that? What can I take and learn, and what won't I ever do again?
Okay. What is your definition of success?
To be happy in all areas of your life. So if there's an area that's lacking where you're not feeling your absolute very best, then have a look at it. If it's your relationship, have a look at why. If it's your business, have a look at what's happening there. If it's your health, if it's just you as a person. So I believe that success is just living a very happy, full and rich life, whatever that means to you. And right now I'm feeling so super successful because I'm just so happy within all areas of my life.
How do you recharge?
I get out in nature. So my husband and I like to go camping and four-wheel driving. And I've always, if I'm by the beach or at the water or somewhere that's just really quiet and calm, and I can have my feet on the ground and it's not, just I don't have to do too much. I don't have to really think about anything. For me, that's camping and getting out in nature and out in the wilderness, and it just, and no screen time. So one weekend we went away, and the place that we went was so weird. It was only 2 hours outside of our main capital city, but there was no cell phone service, and it was awesome. I didn't do anything online for 2 whole days, which was a complete surprise because I thought we'd have mobile reception. And I came back feeling so re-energized and so recharged. And it was because I was out in nature with no screen time, and it was awesome.
Great. What are you awesome at?
What am I good at?
What are you awesome at?
Oh, what am I awesome at? I'm awesome at writing. I really am. It's something that I can confidently say. And I'm an awesome friend and partner. I'm really good at being a good friend because I'm very into relationships and making sure that I play an awesome part in being in a relationship with somebody, even if it's a friendship or whatever.
Okay. What legacy do you want to leave?
I want people, as women especially, to feel like they can have a voice and feel like they can be heard. And I want them to be able to stand up with pride and with confidence to show to the world who they are and what they've got to offer, because we've all got something really, really special to offer, but we don't necessarily have the voice or have the words or are allowed to, depending on which country you live in, are allowed to stand up and have freedom of speech and have that voice to share. And that's the thing that lights me up. That's the thing that I want to be remembered for, is that allowing people, wherever you are, it might be in business or it might just be that, in a relationship or whatever, that you have a voice and you can use it and it's powerful, and so are your words.
Okay. Liz, give the listeners one motivational takeaway.
My motivational takeaway is to write 200 words a day on anything. So when you sit down and just write about your day, or you write about something that's upsetting you, or you write about a cool idea that you've got for your business, or you write about the sort of life that you want to lead, or even write about the sort of person that you want to attract, when you do that, it opens up something inside you and it makes you feel more confident. It gives you more inspiration. You'll feel motivated to go out and achieve whatever you have written. And even if it is, something that's upsetting you, you can see it more clearly. And so what I would ask people to do listening to this podcast is to start doing that every day and to have a look back. You don't necessarily have to go back and read them. They don't need to be diary entries. You could use these as little social media bites if you wanted to. But what I've found is when I ask my clients to do this, they start to understand who they are, what they're offering, how they help, and what's important to them. And then you start to live that truth. And so the thing that I would suggest is to motivate yourself is to just start writing. Even if you don't like writing, start and see. You might decide that you fall in love with it. It might become your new favorite thing. And, start to just write those words down every day and you will start to see a difference in your life. I swear to you. And if it doubles as a social media post, well, good on you.
Okay, Liz. Tell the listeners where and how they can connect with you.
Oh, sure. You guys can find me online if you just type in Elizabeth Campbell, the Word Stylist. I will come up for all the socials. My website is ecwritingservices.com. E for Elizabeth, C for Campbell. And that's it, guys. I'm on social. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And you can connect with me through the contact page on my website or through the personal messages. And I'd love to hear. I'll stay in touch too on, what was the biggest takeaway from this for them, and if writing is something that you guys love or loathe, and if it's something that you want to get better at or what motivates you. I'd actually love to know all of that. So please do let me know.
Wow. Well, Liz, I thank you for starting your day with me, because I know over there in Australia, it's Wednesday morning, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Me too. It's been awesome. You asked some great questions.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully we can continue to connect, and never know how our paths are going to cross, because I do have a plan to get to Australia here in the next couple of years.
Please do. Please make sure you stay in touch and let me know, and come to Brisbane or wherever I am in Australia, because we'll be traveling. I'll come and meet you and I'll take you to my favorite place of wherever that is at that time.
Oh, wow. I'm excited. Yes, I definitely will. Hey, thank you. Get your day started, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
If you like Trina Talk, please don't forget to go out to Apple Podcasts to subscribe. Also, who else in your life do you know that needs some motivation and inspiration in their life? Don't forget to share Trina Talk with them. I hope you have a great week. And remember, if you change your mindset, you can change your life. Keep striving, because success is a journey, not a destination. You can listen to Trina Talk anytime and anywhere. It's available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spotify, and all other places that you can listen to podcasts. If you like the podcast, please don't forget to go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, review, and share. If you have questions for me or need inspiration on how to go to the next level, tweet me directly at Trina L. Martin.